Okay, so welcome to Three Questions. I
Yeah.
have a title to my
Oh my
podcast
gosh.
where I ask colleagues and friends in the education literacy world to choose three questions from a list of five,
Yeah.
and we talk about stuff.
Oh,
And somewhere in the conversation, I try to mention how my new book fits into our conversation if we can. This is the challenge round. It's like a dark ops mission.
okay.
I
I'm
find a natural way to plug the book. Today, I have the honor, the joy of talking with Gerrit Jones-Rooy.
uh-huh. Yeah.
I practiced it twice. I thought I knew, and I just want to make sure. What I love about Gerrit is that he's a teacher's teacher, by which I mean that while he is absolutely devoted to practices that improve the work for students, and he has committed his career to the students of New Orleans and New York City in particular. At the same time, what I love about Gerrit is that his work always is looking to support teachers and make the work of teaching not just more effective, but also more sustainable. I love his practicality, his fierceness, his humor, and his smarts. And so I'm very excited to be talking. We also were colleagues together at the Reading and Writing Project.
Yeah.
So we have lots of shared joys and sorrows.
Of course. Of course. I'm so touched by that. Thank you. I don't have a prepared speech, but maybe it says enough to just say, like, I think when I met you, I was probably like 28, 29. I was 6 years into my teaching career. And I think that if you had told 29-year-old that the Kate Roberts was going to say that about you, and it would be on recording, so she couldn't deny it later.
On the record. It's on the record. I can't
I
take it
may
back.
have just melted. So yeah,
Don't do anything awful because now I'm recorded saying nice things about you. So I'm depending on you to be a good dude for the rest of your career because they're going to loop back. Yeah.
yeah, I'm seriously touched though. I can't wait to read your book. It's coming soon, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're self publishing. So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But very, very soon. I think like in the next few weeks, it'll be available.
Well, I've ordered it twice because I forgot I did it the first time, and I was like, oh, I better read this book in anticipation of this interview, but
You
not here
can't.
yet.
You can't.
So
You can't do
two
that.
separate orders are
Yeah.
coming, and I'm going to read them both.
But this works because I can't market. I don't know how to do that. So instead, I don't talk about any of that. And I just talk to you about education. And you don't have to have read anything or talk about me at all.
I'm going to weave you in as much as I feel like weaving you in, which is a lot. So let's do
Oh
this.
gosh. Okay. So I know that the first question you chose was number one, which is what is your educator origin story?
So, I was a history major and a sociology major.
Really?
I actually had no clue that I really wanted to be a teacher. I knew that I was good with kids. Like I got paid to like teach swim lessons and stuff, and people always wanted me to babysit. And it really came from me being like, oh, for a couple of years, like New Orleans is saying that they need some teachers, and there's a program that'll like set you up. Like, sure, maybe I'll do that as I like figure it out. And I actually wanted to teach history. I was like, let me get in there for some high school history. And they were like, the first classroom available is second grade everything. Good luck.
You start second grade?
I was a second grade teacher.
That's
And,
no joke, Gerrit. Oh my goodness.
and I don't like I don't think I would ever sign up for that again, but I think also like I'm a little bit I got to remember I was a first year teacher who really was finding his way, and maybe it wouldn't be so hard, but I don't know how I kept up with 35 7-year-olds. They taught me a lot. I hope I taught them some.
Probably not as much as they taught you. Yep. That's the dilemma of the first year teacher, right? Is that going in, you're like, these kids are going to teach me a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm going to do for them, but
what's funny is my second grade teacher when I was a kid emailed me recently, like actually like Facebook, like 2 years ago. But I was like, I can't believe this person remembers me, and I was trying to think of like my memories of them, and it's very like obscure, the things that I remember. And it's like these little like moments. So I'm a little like, what do 7-year-olds remember? Because they probably saw me at my very best and at my very worst, in all honesty. So
Well, second
Um,
grade is one of those ages, right? Where it's like I have a second grader who's ending his second grade year, and
oh
it's
my God.
interesting that it's like seventh grade in the way where it's like you're not in one place or another, right? It's like in second grade you're still kind of like a baby, a toddlery kind of mindset, but you're
Oh,
also like a big kid, right?
yes.
Warring it out, trying to figure
I
out
feel
who's in
that way
control.
about fifth graders too. So the origin story is like I taught second grade.
Yep.
The kids across the hall were fifth graders. And
Yep.
so I would have like duties where the fifth graders would also be running around. And I actually like kind of made a connection to that age.
Yeah.
And so it was second grade my first year. And I taught, like I said, all the things.
Yep.
And to my surprise, I didn't really think I cared that much about like narrative. Like if honestly, if you look at my bookshelf, it's a lot of
Yeah.
history stuff.
Yeah.
But story time
Yep.
story time was the thing that hooked me. I was like, oh, this is like the thing that's like sweet and beautiful and like kids
Yeah.
share
It's
stuff.
magic. We're loving each other. This is great. Yeah.
And I was just like, more of that, please. And
Yeah.
so I think my like pathway to literacy and like the work that I do now, the real origin story is like the first like time we circled up and I read a story and kids were so into it and then into each other. And then I was like, okay, more of this. And honestly, everything has kind of just been heaped on top of that. So I moved to fifth grade, kept doing story time. Later, 15 years later, I moved to ninth grade. And we still have story time.
Story time.
It's a little deeper, maybe, but story time. Yeah. So that's it, man. I just like,
Yeah.
we connect over it. And I think ultimately, like,
Yeah.
connection is the thing. So,
It's funny because there's a little through line. I've only had a couple conversations so far, but I'm already seeing like a pattern of like the origin story stuff of being all coming from a feeling connected to kids. Do you know what I mean? Like teaching swimming, teaching whatever, just having contact with kids and being like, oh, I like these small people and I'm decent at it. And, this is a good thing. And then in the classroom, like being attracted to the thing that is joyful,
yeah.
being attracted to the thing that increases connection between kids to themselves, to each other, to you, to life, and all of that. And so
Yeah.
it's so beautiful, right? To start teaching that way.
It's a really special thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how much room there is to meander here, but I
Meander.
wanted to tell you,
It's a very tightly run ship here, Gerrit. Got a timer. We're gonna.
I'm sorry, we're moving on. So I used to every year just kind of like autograph some books that really like connected to kids, and like by autograph I mean like I would just send a little note out to a kid and be like, hey, this is I noticed that it's almost like a little weird spirit award for like, hey, I noticed this about you and this book seemed to connect.
That's cool.
And I eventually moved to fifth grade, which is where I actually probably my favorite. Do I have a favorite? Probably my favorite.
Your favorite?
Like fifth graders, yeah.
Yeah.
High school's fine. I like it all, but I just randomly would like, hey, this book reminds me of this kid, or this kid really seemed to like perk up when we read this story. And so I don't even remember that I did this, but I got a text message from a kid who was like, hey, Mr. Jones-Rooy, I had you in fifth grade, and I don't even know if you remember this, but you gave a copy of The Giving Tree, which is so funny because all the time I'm like, The Giving Tree sends a weird message. But
that's cool, like, Gerrit. Just teach the kid to be codependent. That's great. Okay, fine.
Yeah,
sending toxic messages to the youth of America.
I chose to, for this kid, notice the like, hey, you're very supportive of your peers, instead of the theme of like, hey, demand sacrifice from your parents and the people that love you. I chose every book has multiple meanings.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point. See, you're teaching us even now. It's amazing. Even now. The English teacher comes out, right? Multiple themes. There's a dominant theme, a minor theme. You're just taking a minor theme as one would. Yep.
But anyway, she sent me a picture of me signing it, and she was like, "Hey, I just got my master's in biology, and I decorated my cap with the cover of that book." And I was having a bad day. It was like, it's like testing season, and like nobody is thrilled in testing season. We try our best, but for the most part, everyone's like, let's get back to the heart of this. And I don't know, I just like wept first period when I happened to look at my phone when I got this message. So like, I don't know. I try to remember those things, like the moments of connection is like ultimately like what we're going for, and like kids seeing themselves in books and seeing each other in books, and I don't know. It's just a powerful moment that I
It
want
makes me think too, because there's been a couple moments this year where, in either direction, where either I've reached out to someone and said something like extra kind, or someone has to me. And like, I saw something online that some teacher was saying, like, that's all we really need to keep going, or for people to reach out. You know what I mean? And like, for a kid to reach out to you and just be like, this thing just meant something to me.
to.
It fuels
Serious,
you for like a year. Like, I can take one email and that's like 3 months of motivation to keep
serious,
going. So
serious.
like, anyone listening, reach out to a teacher that you know and tell
Please,
them what they
and
meant to you,
especially if it's me, please.
especially Gerrit. Everyone, in fact, everyone reach out to Gerrit, whether you know him or not. Just say something nice to Gerrit. We'll put his email up in the show notes.
But seriously, email your teachers.
Email
They
your
melt.
teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
we need it.
yeah.
I love that. Okay, so your next question in this tightly run ship was question number 4, which
Yes.
was, if you had a motto for teaching right now in our current circumstances,
Oh.
what would it be?
So I want you to know I didn't prepare a motto ahead of time because
It's good. It's real
I
life.
think the beauty can come from it being natural.
That's it.
I kind of like two things come immediately to mind. Um, I reserve the right to clean this up and send you a new link later.
We can re-record this whole
So
conversation if you want.
it might be more of just like here's an idea and I'll figure out the wording of it later. But I think the first thing is like remember the fun.
Yeah.
Um, and what I don't want people to hear in that is like having a high standard doesn't matter, because ultimately I think that like deep, meaningful, rich, challenging discussion at its best is fun. Like if we're doing the things right, you know, even I know it's a dirty word in a lot of people's vocabulary, but like even like standards aligned stuff is
Mhm.
fun. We're investigating, we're theorizing, we're challenging, we're pushing ourselves, we're coming up with new ideas, and that is supposed to be like an electric feeling. Like the same mentality anybody has when they're debating their favorite show with friends is what I think we should be aspiring to and recreating daily with kids. It is
100%.
a joyful, awesome thing.
100%.
And I think there's a second thing that's just been on my mind lately, and I think this might be like a what era we're in kind of thing. Um, but I just want people to remember that like kids can do a lot, and I've been a little like, and I think I was guilty of this too. Um, Giving kids a little less during like tough times, thinking we're
Mhm.
doing them a favor.
Mhm.
And honestly, it's quite the opposite. And we need to like link arms and stand together with the like, hey, I expect kids that you can actually do quite a lot with this.
Yeah. And I'm gonna kind of try to make you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like with the power and the tools that I have, and with the, I mean, I think those two things are so related to, though, that you said, because like the way that I can buy in and get a class of kids to work hard and do more is to remember the fun, right? To say like, look, you're going to work hard, you're going to go with me,
Yeah.
but I'm going to work hard to make sure that this is relevant, engaging, that it turns on all your cylinders, you know, that you get like I sometimes call it like English teacher chills, you
Yep.
know, of like that feeling of discovery of like, oh, I just had a cool thought kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'll do that, but you are going to work hard for me. I think that's huge.
It's not fun if we're not striving. You know,
No.
like my best moments in life have had some form of like, we're going for it
Yeah.
and we got to go for it, you know?
We'll roll our sleeves up.
Yeah.
We'll say a lot with like taking like jots, or I'll talk about like jotting when you're reading or something. And kids, you know, obviously don't want to do that. It's not, doesn't sound fun to them. And so, you know, kids will push back on that. And
Yeah.
I just kind of reject, like they'll be like, it's ruining my reading. Like I just want to read. And I just
Uh,
always like kind of reject the premise of that argument, because it feels like you're saying that having like two thoughts about your reading ruin it. That's just not true.
yeah.
What happens, right, is that kids just record what they already know. They're not working hard. They're
Yeah.
just complying with a task for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yeah.
That is not fun. That is horrible, right? But if you're actually using time to say, what new original thought can I have about my reading today? I
Yeah.
mean, fun, I don't know, but engaging, it is.
Engagement comes first, and then that turns into fun.
That's
Uh,
right.
for me, so I think that's actually like one of my like ninja moves as a teacher is like the power walk away. So like if a kid is like, oh hey, like this is boring, I don't have a thought. You're like, oh, you know what? I actually used to think reading was really boring too. It's because my ideas weren't like fancy enough. So I want you to look at that chart, pick which thing's new for you. That's how you make it fun, and then
Yep.
you leave that conversation.
Yeah. Except
And
you said something really important there, was you said, look at that chart.
yep,
Do,
yeah,
do you know what I mean? That's where you and I come in. That's where you, because like what I find a lot of times is that like what people don't have is the chart, the thing
yeah,
that the kid can hold on to, right? You can't just go to like work hard and have fun
yeah,
from zero support, right? You can't just say go work hard and have fun. There has to
yeah,
be like a thing that the kid is referring to that holds your teaching,
yeah. They got to know what that means.
right?
Like, yeah, me saying like, "Ooh, look at that," and then getting out of dodge, and so the kid has
That's
like
it.
they're left to their own devices for a second. Like they see my expectations are there because I've
Yep.
moved on to the other kid, and I'm like, "Come on, you can do it," you know.
Yep.
Um, and I'm not sitting there reteaching the same thing 30 times. It's like it's on that chart. That's what makes it fun. Like investigate something. We'll
You
talk
can
about
do
it.
it.
I can't wait to hear about it.
No, you can do it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I love that. The walking away is important too, right? The not staring, the not over talking, the not over teaching, the giving the kid a little space, all that stuff.
a breakthrough for me was learning that sometimes kids were just wanted attention or me to be nearby, and I'm like, I'm going to give you attention when you're doing the thing, and
That's
you'll
it.
get your attention then. But I'm
That's
not going to like encourage you to avoid stuff right now.
no.
You know?
And boy, that learned helplessness, that learned dependence is so
Yeah,
deep right now, right? In every classroom I'm in, every school I'm in, the kids are just like, I'm going to hang back. You tell me what to do.
yeah.
Exactly. Over and over again.
I think that's like always been a thing. It feels harsher now. It
It's harsh.
feels yeah.
It's
It
harsh.
just feels sharper. Like
Well, and I
there's
know as a parent, like, I'm guilty of it myself. Like, I did so much for my kids during these years that they probably should have learned like a lot more independence. And it was all my own failures, my own capacity, their stuff.
yeah,
But it's interesting to just see it in a generation of being like, oh, this is something we have to grapple
yeah,
with,
yeah,
right? The
yeah,
problem is, of course, that all the new curriculums don't ask the kids to grapple with that at all, right? All the new curriculums are like, I'll tell you exactly what to think and when to think it and how to think it. And here's your 3 lines to write it. And oh my gosh, even in the good stuff that's in those curriculums, I wonder about that dependence thing and independence thing inside of some of those new programs, how that's going to work.
I do worry. I also like there's things we can do,
Yeah.
but we have to like kind of I used the locking arms metaphor before, but like I think so I get to work right now with like science teachers, social studies to English teachers, and I have felt as a teacher that if I'm the only one who's like, hey, we're going to hold kids to high expectations. Kids used to write papers in history, and right now we're not. If I'm the only one doing it, then I'm seen as like, in a lot of cases, like the unfair one.
Yeah.
But if we all kind of step forward and say like, hey, here's what we used to know that kids could do.
Yeah.
And right now they're telling us that they can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that they're capable of it. If we step forward together, we're going to be able to get there. And it can't just be one person.
I love that. And also the whole like, we know they can do more is a critical step. You know what I mean? Because I find that, for a lot of classroom teachers who are at capacity themselves, everyone's feeling it. I think sometimes it's easy to slip back into they can't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? That something has somehow irrevocably shifted with our species. But
Yes.
that's not it. Do you know what I mean? It's that we have bad habits. That's all. Do you know what I mean? The kids aren't, in fact, neurologically different, probably, or at
No.
least not by much, right? But
Yeah.
we have to believe it first. We have to know, wait a second, kids could sit down and in 30 minutes write a
Yeah.
whole bunch of stuff. They
I
can
think
do
they've
that.
learned that they can complain a little bit and
Yep.
maybe avoid some work.
Yep.
And because we've like allowed it a little bit, they're doing a little bit more. And
Mhm.
it's just like, nope, we're not going to do that anymore. I think that's the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I love that. Have fun, or remember the fun,
Remember the fun.
and work hard.
Remember the fun. Work hard. Remember the fun. Expect a lot.
Remember the fun, expect a lot. We should make bumper stickers. When this becomes a nationally famous, incredibly successful podcast where I'm interviewing not just educators, but celebrities and, the rich and the famous, we're going to make bumper stickers, and yours is going to be first. So there you go.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, number 5, or number 3 question, number 5 on the list. Why do you think it still matters to teach students to read more powerfully and independently? And I want to say you're the first person to answer this question, and I ask it doesn't fit some of the rest, but I do ask it because the one thing I see, or one of the things that I see that feels endangered right now, is kids reading, like their eyes on print, reading on their own. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious, because I'm asking it of myself, like for places where that's under threat, either because of new curriculum or just new attitudes. I'm like, why do I feel like it's still important?
Yeah. So, I mean, I got a lot of thoughts on this one. I think the one that's screaming in my face right now, and maybe it's because I just watch the news too much in my long car rides. Um, what kind of adults are we hoping that our children can realize that they are?
Yeah,
And I believe that kids deserve to grow up to be great critical thinkers and people who question things and people who come up with their own ideas, but it's got to be like rooted and based in something. I believe, and I'm going to add something to the powerfully, or what I mean by powerfully. And, there's the power of like reading something on your own and coming up with great ideas. There's also a thing that you can only, I think, get in the classroom, which is reading together and coming up with new understandings through the discussion of it. And in society right now, I worry that we're slipping on that front. And I think that I want kids to realize the power that they've got and have the skills to read a lot and come up with new shared understandings because they've engaged together in stuff.
I
And
love
so
that.
powerfully, I mean the independence, I mean the together part. And I think I can't think of a better spot than the classroom to do that.
It's a real through line for you, is the sort of communal piece, right? The idea of like locking arms, so we have to do this together. And that the power of this is also in the fact that it's not reading alone in your room, that it's
Yeah.
reading in a classroom, that you're in a community of readers together
Yes.
doing this work. Well,
Yeah.
let me ask you, because this is the thing I'm curious about. And I don't know if you have an answer. And if you don't, I don't either. So we can try to mug around with it. Why do you think it matters that it's reading? Right? Because all that stuff you're talking about, we could watch a season of a show. Do you know what I mean? We
Yeah.
could watch YouTube clips. We could play a narrative video game. We could do all sorts of stuff. We could read excerpts. We could read little snippets of things. So
Yeah.
that sort of like reading books. What
Mm.
do you have any ideas of like why that still matters to you?
So I think all of those things that you just said are good things,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Same.
So like the critical thinking and the togetherness of things is important in all aspects. I think the reading part for me is just, I know it's been powerful for me and I want to share it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, um,
Yeah.
I think there's something about independence. There's something about joy in there too. I don't necessarily know that there is a reason why, other than my opinion and my knowledge, that like I know that everybody else can feel this too. Why it's always got to be in books, because I don't think it always has to be books. But I also think that we're depriving kids if we're not. My cat's joining us now.
Hi, buddy. What's the
Depriving.
cat's name? Oh, I wish mine was here. Where's I'll
This is
call him.
Bugs, and Bugs is a very empathetic fella. And if I ever start getting in feelings or like emotional about something, Bugs will jump right on my lap. So I care a lot about literacy. So he feels it.
Oh,
Here
look
he
at
is.
him. He's like, oh, Gerrit's gonna cry about reading. I gotta go. I love
Yeah,
that.
I think books have just made such an impact on my life, and I think there's theater teachers out there and science teachers and social studies teachers who feel the same way, and I hope that they they demonstrate it in the same way that us English teachers do too. So it's not that I think it's
Yeah.
better. I think it's a way, and I think we're really it's highway robbery if we're not giving them this tool too.
I think so too, but there's something critical inside of here that I'm curious about that feels like existential for the English classroom. And I don't know, again, I don't know, right? I can feel my age a little bit sometimes where I'm like, oh, I have ideas, about how it should be,
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I hear younger people or more advanced people challenging that. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it doesn't have to be. Like, I don't think it has to be reading all the time or
Mm-hmm.
text all the time or eyes on print all the time. And yet there's something with the AI stuff and the fact that we're moving away from kids sort of reading books on their own,
Mm-hmm.
approaching
Mm-hmm.
into that feels like, and again, maybe I'm just old and we're evolving away from this, but there's a way that I'm like, when I read my eyes on print on my own, what I'm able to, and make the meaning that I'm able to make on
Mm-hmm.
this book that I'm reading over time, that I'm being asked to do something, to construct something in my brain by myself.
Totally.
Right? Same thing with writing.
Yeah.
Yes, I might write a totally crappy 5-paragraph essay.
Yeah.
Hopefully not all the time, but I'm doing it. I'm the one doing it.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
coming up with
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
bad topic sentence, right? I'm the one coming up with all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think there is something that we're moving away from, to your point of the like, expect more, expect a
Mm-hmm.
lot,
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
like, it's different when I watch a thing. So much is being done for me when I watch a thing. It's different when I hear the audiobook, even though yay audiobook, it counts, yay, yay, yay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
different, right? I don't have to work quite as hard on
Yeah.
my own. It's doing something for me.
Yeah.
And I
I
think
think we got to
I
get like.
believe in that. I believe in making kids construct it themselves and then bring it to the community, then bring it to the world of people who can help you make it better.
I think that what you inherently know is true is also backed up by a lot of research that I'm not even going to be able to quote right now. But yeah, the things that your brain has to do making sense of print from hey, all the way from reading rope style, like, hey, phonetically, what's happening here? Phonologically, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Deeper meaning, what's happening here? What am I experiencing? A firsthand view of a historical event is happening here. And there's all kinds of things that I think we are uh, missing out on if we were to get away from text being at the core of
Text.
it.
I
Yeah.
do too. I do too. But maybe we're wrong. Who knows? Maybe we're evolving.
Hope not. Feel pretty strong.
Well, this is fun. So is there anything about your work right now that you want to throw out there, talk about? What are you focusing on these days?
Thanks. So I got two things that I'm really excited about. So I don't know if everybody in your audience knows what you do, but I'm confident that many do. So we still work in schools,
Yep.
and we help teachers in the classroom, and it's like really like a shared community practice. So I'm still doing the thing that we did with Teachers College many a year ago, where it's like, hey, we are trying to do best by our students, and here's the thing we're working on. Let me demonstrate like a research backed way or an experientially backed way that this can work, and let's trade notes on it, and then hopefully like together we grow as educators. That's still like I'd say 80% of what I'm doing.
Same.
As I have done this work this year, I have just seen like more I've seen the work go a little bit further when there was a prepared, we're operating off of a shared resource. By the way, you should check out Kate's book.
Check out my book.
But like, so a year ago, I refined a unit of study with lessons and like, hey, if your kids also are like having trouble with like foundational writing skills, or a different option if your kids are having trouble with like accessing text that is above maybe the ability that they've got as readers, but we're still expecting them to engage in a discussion on a text that's really challenging. I wrote a unit that is about like finding your own voice as a narrative writer, and it's embedded in it is some of those supports. And I have just the teachers who decided to use that unit. I have just seen like our conversation and our work together go further. So I'm in the process of writing and kind of self-publishing my second unit, which is going to be on book clubs. And book clubs are one of my favorite things of all time. Just
Ever.
and my favorite moments in classrooms seem to have been around book clubs. I was kind of like
Right.
looking back because like kids are working together in a team of four to make sense of a text. It's like there's choice,
Perfect.
there's ownership, it's
It's
everything.
everything. It's
So
everything.
this summer, I am going to be self-publishing a second unit, and my goal right now is like one per year, and maybe I'll work with teachers to produce some more and faster.
Yeah.
Here's the second thing, and this is a thing that is coming in like a day or two, maybe give me a week. One of my favorite things in my own personal classroom, my favorite thing, which was just like, hey, when kids walk into the room, they're gonna like know that they're cared for and there's awesome stuff that's for them, is having just like the coolest classroom library that I could
Yes.
put together.
Yes.
And it totally like sets the vibe of like we care about you. And
Yep.
so what I'm gonna do is I need to figure out my process for figuring out who the winner is. But I'm gonna be raising money for basically like a make an awesome classroom dream come true for a teacher who like shouldn't be spending their own money to make it because like I really overspent on it myself and I don't want other people to do that. But like what I want is like I want stuff that kids don't need,
Yeah.
but would make them feel seen and
Yeah.
felt.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to have like the leather bound books that feel too expensive and maybe are too expensive for a classroom, but like I want kids to go like, oh, my teacher got me like a leather bound book with like the little
Version.
gold print on the edges. I want like room for plants. I want like merch from like our favorite books on the wall. I want like the the Christmas lights that send this like library vibe that like shows that I'm like cared for and supported.
Yeah.
Like ultimately I think that like you don't need that to have a wonderful classroom, but it sure is great and powerful. And if I can help raise funds for like one teacher per year right now to help them set up a library like that, I'm going to do it. It's going to bring me joy. It's going to bring them joy. And I know they're going to do something with it. So that's what I'm going to be releasing soon is like, here's how you can donate to this. And I'll take before and after photos and everything for everybody. So that's my second.
That's so fun. Well, we will throw that also in the whatever show notes means. We'll throw that in the show notes
Yeah, awesome.
when we
Yeah.
when we publish this. What I love about that too is that we all know the teacher who has the room like that. Do you know what I mean? Who has the aptitude and the drive to not just get the books, but I love that you bring up the aesthetics of it too.
Yeah.
Because whether or not kids clue in that they notice that, they notice it.
I
Like we
think
did a lot of work back in the day on classroom environments and how you can build an environment that feels welcoming and kid-centered. But like not all teachers have the capacity or the desire or the knowledge to buy those Christmas lights and like or holiday lights
they're
and all that
recovering
stuff.
from their year and like also like learning about new resources that are coming down the pike. They're tired,
It's not the priority, right? I'm not going to prioritize it. Like my personal bedroom is a disaster always because it's
yeah,
not the priority.
yeah. I'm like, there's a reason why this camera is fixed right this way,
I love
Yeah.
that. The other thing I wanted to pop out, and I am going to be able to talk about a book now in conjunction with what you just said, so that's excellent, is the idea of the foundational skills and making sure that we're supporting teachers in being able to like teach into and coach into some of those like bread and butter skills that I find, especially as the conversation keeps moving forward into new ideas, new curriculum, old curriculum, all these things is, you know, I still need to know how to coach into narrative writing as a teacher.
Yeah.
Period. Just 101 level, just like a range of kids doing a range of work on narrative. I have to be able to go in there, roll my sleeves up, and coach them into better practice.
Yep.
And I think that's a big thing or a big reason why I wrote The Heart of Fiction is noticing that, like, you're laughing because you're like, look at Kate.
Yeah, I'm smiling. I'm so excited.
Look what I have. I'm super official. What
Hey,
the cover? I know I've got multimodal. I know, it's incredible. But that I wanted to like, I was noticing that I think we've complicated skills instruction so much over the years that it's like it makes it seem too hard to learn how to do.
Yes.
And I don't think that's always the case. It can get very complicated. You could spend a lifetime, as you and I have, right, learning how to coach along all these lines. But really, if I think about like analyzing characters, there's a certain set of work that you need to know how to do really, really well across a wide variety of
Yeah.
texts. So I think that idea of being able to make resources available to teachers
Yep.
that allows them to know how easily or more easily to coach into the stuff that they're going to encounter every single day in their classrooms is really
Yeah.
important, because otherwise I can't get to the other stuff like joy, to your
Yeah.
point of like, yes, I can say go have fun and work hard, right? But if I don't have the chart to point to,
Yeah.
I
I
don't
am
know
so
how to do
excited.
that.
I love that. I think that most resources overcomplicate wildly,
Right.
you know? And
Right.
like, of course, there's nuance. You know, you got
Oh,
35 kids in a room, and
oh,
they're going to need.
oh.
Um, I think we sometimes forget that there's like patterns to these things, and like the heart of it is the
Yeah.
heart of it. And
Yeah.
if we stick to like the principles of it, it's going to work. I love that. Yeah, we got to
Love it.
demystify
We
what
got to
something.
demystify it, and then we can mystify again. Do you know what I mean? Like there's lots to do and there's lots of layers, but the more that we can keep things simple, book clubs, narrative, these
Yeah,
basic reading skills, you know what I mean? Yeah,
yeah,
we can help. So that's, I think we
absolutely.
should end it. We can end. Garrett and I can help,
Yeah.
right? Demystify, make things more fun, make things a little clearer for kids.
Well, thanks so much for having me. This was awesome. I can't wait
Yeah.
to read it. I've already recommended it to friends. I trust you so much. So
Well, you should read it first because maybe I go way off the rails with some of
yeah,
it.
just like hey, you told everybody that you respect my work, and now I've got to live up to that. You know,
That's
ditto.
true. That's
Both,
true.
both,
And
both.
you're not allowed to do anything shady because I already said nice things about you publicly. So please be
Like
a good dude who's really good at what you do for the rest of your career, and we'll be fine.
thing.
It's good to see you, Garrett.
You too. Miss you.